My name is Brandon Fenning. My speech this week is about affirmative action, which is also equates to legalized discrimination. Affirmative action creates more problems than it solves. Business owners that are found not to be compliant with the law can be found guilty and pay steep fines without willingly violating the law. These laws affect everyone: men, women, black and white, young and old, and anything from such as going to apply for a job, schooling, or trying to advance their career through a promotion. I myself am a victim of reverse discrimination and the tragedy that is affirmative action. Affirmative action causes reverse discrimination, preferential treatment, even if it has benefited society in bringing to light the injustices that our government for so long has allowed to go unpunished. America wants to revise this program and create an equal society based not on color or on sex. Supporters of affirmative action will tell you that these laws reduce discrimination and level the playing field for minorities and women. But recently, even minorities have begun to doubt these claims and calling for the changes in affirmative action before the damage is irreversible. Here are just a few examples of what affirmative action has done to our society. Affirmative action creates reverse discrimination. According to Stephen Yates, author of Civil Wrongs, What Went Wrong with Affirmative Action creates quotas and creates quotas for minorities. What that means is that if you go to apply for a student loan, if you go to apply for a college, if you go to apply for a job, there are a certain number of minorities that have to be employed, have to be accepted. I personally have been a victim of reverse discrimination. Recently, in the last few years, I worked for a position. I was a security officer, and I worked for a woman. I had a black coworker. I had a lot of older coworkers. All of us were involved in a very similar incident. Nothing happened to two of my coworkers, but me, myself, I was suspended 3 days without pay. When I went to approach my boss and the owner of my company, I was told that basically my claim was unfound. No one was willing to listen to me. You know, just suck it up and deal with it. I contacted the Department of Labor, the place that should protect me, the place that should help me. After a few questions, they determined that, you know, it sounded like my claim had merit, and he asked me a couple of questions that I found puzzling. He asked, "Are you a minority?" No, I'm not. "Are you old?" No, I'm not old either. He didn't ask me, you know, if by chance, you know, there was a woman involved. I said, "Well, yes, there is, but obviously I'm not it." He goes, "Well, I hate to tell you this." He goes, "But since you're not a woman, since you're not a minority, since you're not over 60, there's really nothing we can do for you. We only take claims that are from those individuals. So therefore, I was discriminated against because I was not a minority, because I was not a woman, and because I was not over 60 years old. Who am I to turn to?" I was then informed that I could hire my own personal attorney, spend my own personal money, and fight for this claim. I was not in a position of power to be able to do that. Finances were not available to me at that time. Affirmative action advances one group at the expense of another. According to Nancy Stein, editor of the progressive journal called Crossroads, she said in a publication, Questions and Answers About Affirmative Action, that was written for social justice, the University of California sets aside 5% of the incoming freshman class for individuals, and I quote, that do not meet certain standards but are members of an underrepresented racial group, that are athletes or graduates of a rural high school. Now, I don't know about you, but that to me sounds like a quota. We are setting aside a percentage for unqualified individuals. Their words, not mine. These are individuals that can't get into the school on their own merit, can't get in based on their test scores or anything else that they're looking at. But because they're of an underrepresented minority, they're an athlete, or they come from a rural high school, they're granted in on those. Therefore, we're discriminating against qualified individuals that can get in, but they lose merit because they are not a minority, they're not an athlete, and they're not from a rural high school. affirmative action hurts the groups that it's supposed to protect. That is something that just baffles me. I don't understand. There's a claim from 1994 where the EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Center, filed a suit against a company called the Daniel Lamp Company. And it almost cost 12 to 30 minorities their jobs. In that case, that was referenced by Stephen Yates in his book, the Daniel Lamp Company in 1989 refused employment to a black lady, citing that she was unqualified for the work. Now, when they filed a claim, when this black lady filed a claim, the EEOC came in, did an investigation, and the owner, Mr. Webble, felt he had nothing to hide. He was in a minority-enriched district. Almost his entire work staff that had fluctuated anywhere from 12 to 30 individuals had almost entirely been comprised of Hispanics and black individuals. So you can imagine his surprise when he was fined over $148,000 for not hiring 8.45 blacks at any one given time. Had the EEOC gotten their way in this case, the Daniel Lamp Company would have been closed down and those minorities would have lost their jobs. How is that affirmative action working for you now? Affirmative action still creates separate yet unequal situations for people that have been advanced through it. And I quote here, an unknown minority who was speaking in a magazine said, quote, "I was advanced through the door that said minorities only. All value of my achievements are now gone." What that means is that a person that is of minority, and that is of the female variety, are advanced because of these laws, even if they are qualified to do the work that they are applying for, even if they're qualified to do what they're supposed to be doing. Because they're advanced through the affirmative action laws, they can no longer stand on the merit of their own works. It devalues them as a person. Affirmative action helps minorities focus on the racism in others, but not on themselves. What I'm saying here is in quoting Bill Conti and Brad Stetson in their article, that they're talking from Emily Scherer, who is talking about her experience as a New York City school teacher. And there she quotes one of her students who was upset about two Asian children running for school office, said, and he quotes, "No way am I staying here if two slant-eyed kids is running things." The teacher then informed him that he was a racist, that he could run for the office himself, but he would have to refrain from being a racist. And he very quietly sat down and said, that was racist. So what happens is, with the laws of affirmative action, we allow the people to see, I got discriminated here, this person's not fair, this is not fair, but we help breed racism and hatred within those individuals. And then they don't see that, and we're not doing any good by that. Affirmative action provides an excuse for minorities to blame their actions and lifestyles on their situation. Bill Conti and Brad Stetson again quote the Wall Street Journal about a black drug dealer from Omaha who says, "Society has set it up so the black people can't get ahead. I'm not supposed to have the American dream and all that. I'm supposed to be in jail. What we have done is by telling the black society, we've discriminated against you, we've held you down. Because of that, we're going to give you this advantage. We're going to hear because we haven't given you the American dream. We've built them down. We've given them a barrier to say, I can't get past that. I can't be who I'm supposed to be because you're holding me back." And furthermore, affirmative action places incompetent people in positions of power that they're not qualified for. This leads to resentment among individuals of different races and different sexes, and it also devalues the individuals that have gotten there by merit. So if someone is qualified to have that position, but another person got promoted because of affirmative action, this person over here feels that they're no longer of value, that they can't stand on their own achievements. Here's some quotes from Bill Conti and Brad Stetson. Quoting Emily Scherer again.